Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. I'm yours truly, the Exceptional One, joined this evening by one of the most brilliant individuals in foreign policy, none other than Janis Hall, the J. Hall World Report. Ladies and gentlemen, turn that music off. Thank you very much. Uh, so good to have you here tonight, Janis. How's the computer coming?
It's coming. It's coming.
It's,
Just need to restart. It happens.
exactly. Technology. Thank God for it.
Technology.
uh, Janis, Brexit. I have a special tool for whenever
You're a little
we.
choppy,
Yeah.
but I think we'll
Oh,
be okay.
okay. Sorry about that. I have a little
No,
tool
it's
whenever
probably
we
my
talk.
end.
Okay. Um, Whenever we talk about Brexit, I have something that I like to play to get the message across to a whole lot of people. Here we go. Sand through the hourglass. There we go. Brexit. You have breaking news, a great update on the sand. Tell us, Janice, what is the big news out of Great Britain?
We don't have Brexit.
Oh my God. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, the sands of time running through that particular clock.
Continue.
There you go. So, give us the inside straight regarding Brexit. Is this a total failure for Boris Johnson?
Well, so they're going to hold elections, and Boris wanted them to do this. So, in that regard, it's not a complete failure. That said, we don't have Brexit, so the primary purpose of, well, UK leadership for the past couple years is still ending in failure at the moment.
Now, Janice,
And
when we did the show a little while back, and we were talking about Boris Johnson being elected to office, and I believe that there was this other guy who was being elected to the European Union who was supposed to help in terms of the Brexit. I forget this gentleman's name, um, was once the leader of Brexit for Great Britain. Um, we were sure that those two will work together to make sure that Brexit came to pass. And as well, we got a lot of angry mail from the British people about that show that we did because they said that Boris Johnson and the other would make certain that this would happen and it would happen just as they promised in their elections. Will they receive electoral support? Because I see it as a failure. What say you?
I kind of also see it as a failure. I mean, there is the opportunity that the Conservatives and that other fellow, Mr. Farage, his party, the Brexit Party, will do well, they'll work together, and Brexit will happen. It's always a possibility. That said, I am definitely not encouraged by the fact that they haven't left yet. And I still sort of stand by what I said earlier, which was that, you know, October felt like a drop dead date, in that if it didn't happen this time, I have serious doubts that it's going to.
Mm-hmm. And so many people in the stock market feel the very same way you feel that this sucks and Brexit's not going to take place, which might be good for the European market, but overall might be bad for trade with Great Britain. Can we trust Great Britain to exit in a timely manner from the European Union? And what impact does this have on Ireland?
So it doesn't have a huge impact at the moment on Ireland. Everything pretty much stays the same.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I don't know how the British are going to leave the EU at this stage. They have said many times that they want to. They the politicians have said that, well, we don't agree, but we'll try and leave anyway. And here we are now, several years later, after the British people saying that they want to leave, and they're still part of the EU, and they are still dragging their feet. And this is it's it's a tactic,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That leadership, in countries, elites do. They figure that if they can just drag their feet enough, or if they can just string something along enough, then they'll eventually get what they want. And they're not always wrong about that. Um, Trump and the impeachment thing is kind of a good example. If the Democrats just keep hammering on it enough, maybe eventually they'll get an impeachment vote. I don't think he'll be removed, but the fact that this is even, something that's being considered is,
Mm-hmm.
it it's more than what we had initially,
Exactly.
when
Now
we
we
shouldn't be here at all. But anyway, yeah.
we were told not to use the name of Farage in vain. That Farage was going to make this happen. And I can't wait to find that video so I can put it out there that Farage and Boris Johnson failed. And quite frankly, it's an embarrassment, a simple embarrassment for all. Um, I don't see where they go from here outside of what you have stated. Nothing's going to happen, and we're going to waste a whole lot more time covering them regarding the election that won't seem to matter either. Am I on the right track here?
Um, I would say that for people, not necessarily Boris Johnson, but I think for Farage, I think that he to call it quits. I think that he is very invested in Brexit, and I think that he's going to continue however long it takes. Now, there's a difference between fighting and winning.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you fight for something doesn't mean you're ultimately going to get it. So I think that Farage will definitely continue fighting. I think that there are people in Britain who will continue fighting for independence, essentially. But I'm not into the near future that that's something that they're going to be able to get with the current being what it is, and the current leadership.
Do you think that the people in Britain have changed their mind and that the election
On
won't change?
I don't think the people in Britain have changed their mind. I think that they want to leave. I think they probably want to leave even more now that they're seeing just how insanely difficult it is to leave in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, yeah, I mean, I think if anything, they want to leave more, but that doesn't really seem to matter to leadership in Western countries these days, what the people want.
Exactly. Now, I want to talk with you about Jeff Bezos and his newspaper, The Washington Post. that virtually glorified al-Baghdadi as one of the most singular religious scholars in the world, worthy of being sat at his feet. And apparently, like the dog he was, he bombed himself and killed his three kids, taking them with him. Want to get your opinion regarding what the Washington Post and Jeff Bezos did on Sunday, and your belief regarding how the left looks at ISIS and the terrorists.
So, yeah, the Washington Post, when for their story about this, essentially this terrorist getting killed, was that they're just going to call him an austere religious leader. Yes, that's exactly right. I think that the Washington Post has been mocked pretty well, and rightfully so for this. If nothing else, we've seen some great uh, one-liners that have come out of this. That I mean, I've gotten a good laugh out of several of them. Um, that said, the left and the media are just so they can't call terrorism what it is. They can't call, you know, religious Islam what it is. They can't say that it's bad. That they basically can't say anything. So they come up with, well, how can we make him sound okay? I know. We'll just we'll just call him Spartan. You know,
Spartacus.
that'll work. He lives a simple life. He's very rigid. So
Yeah, he
yeah,
was a goat herder, probably too. A goat herder. Uh,
right.
Probably had a farm.
Probably.
Yeah, yeah, just a
Yeah.
agriculturalist by trade. There you go.
Yeah. Environmentalist, maybe
Yeah,
even.
climate change organizer. He
Yes.
changed every climate he was ever in.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, are we going to see a change in the Washington Post? Has Jeff Bezos been embarrassed enough? No.
No, well, I mean, maybe on this one, yes, but in general, no.
Do you
I
think Donald
think
Trump?
that the,
I'm sorry.
oh, I was just going to say that I think that no, I think the media just at this point they must enjoy telling all of these fibs because there's no reason for it.
I love that. There's no reason for it. Got to ask you, do you believe that Donald Trump overreacted on Sunday regarding killing al-Baghdadi, and his number two at the same time? Thank you.
No, 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 I don't think so. And I've had this conversation with a couple people recently in the wake of al-Baghdadi being being killed, and that when now he's not comparable to Osama bin Laden. I mean, nothing really is.
Yeah.
But I remember, when bin Laden was killed, and I mean, I was happy.
Mm-hmm.
I am not ashamed to say I was happy that Osama bin Laden had been killed. And I remember going into work the next day, and nobody really seemed to care. And there was definitely not happiness. And it was one of the first times that I thought, there's something really wrong here.
These were probably leftists. Am I correct? A good majority of them. simply amazed. Simply amazed. A lot of people don't remember that it was the Islamists that were celebrating when the Twin Towers fell in New York. They don't remember that, killing over 3,500 people. But for some odd reason, when we celebrate the fact that we have eliminated a crucial enemy on the battlefield, Donald Trump gets eviscerated for being excited. I don't think that there's a problem with being excited. I think you should be, because that's what war is for. It's to eliminate the enemy. Congratulations, Commander in Chief. I want to ask you regarding Sweden and exactly why are they going to the Middle East to recruit? Uh, isn't the European Union helping them enough in terms of sending people to Sweden?
Apparently not. So yeah, basically the Swedish are still trying to convince people to come to Sweden, and they are essentially marketing all of their great social services uh, to the Middle East.
So, literally, come here and get your food stamps, get your free weed. Uh, Nothing says it better than Sweden. There we go. Terrible.
Yep.
I got to ask you about the summit that's been canceled, um, the international summit. Wanted to get your thoughts regarding the cancellation. Does that put a pin in an agreement between China and the U.S.?
Is no. It was canceled due to um, unrest in Chile because that's where it was going to be held. I think that if the U.S. and China want to make a deal and shake hands on it, they will find a way. I don't think that because a multinational summit was canceled that's going to put the whole trade deal in jeopardy. So I think it may not happen quite as soon or as you know right anyway, as soon as we would like. There may not now be like a hard deadline for anything, but I think that ultimately, if we want to come to an agreement, we can make it happen.
Yeah. So we don't need a special place to do it. We can do it at any time,
No,
anywhere, if we want it.
yeah.
Okay. So the left should not be celebrating the fact that Donald Trump doesn't have an opportunity to sign the agreement with Xi Jinping. Am I correct in that regard?
You are correct. Yes.
Thank you very much. Um, I wanted to talk with you about another matter, and I thought it was kind of um, wow, a very disturbing scenario, and that a granddad is being charged with dropping a toddler over the side of a cruise ship, killing him. I wanted to get your thoughts regarding that particular story.
So this is see, this is one of those stories where you sort of have to look into it because it just on the face of it and you hear the facts, it just sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so what happened was they're on a cruise ship and they were essentially in an area where there was lots and lots of windows and a window was open, and so the grandfather had the child and essentially at the window, and you know accidents, and the basically the child slipped out and fell to the ground. um so the okay, so they are charging the dad, or sorry, not the dad, the grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
um and I think that some that I saw, and I think that this is probably to some degree accurate, is that they're doing this in a way to prevent, or to try and prevent Royal Caribbean, the cruise line, from being sued. So it's sort of like, if you can place blame on someone else, then you can keep the company from being sued. Um, and I think one of the reasons that they may have a case for this is why was the window open in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I think is it's a good question. I don't know enough about the situation or the case, and it's entirely possible that the grandfather is, solely responsible for this, and it's simply a tragic accident. It's also possible that, to some degree, this is political, and just a way to protect the company.
You know, that's really sick when you think about it. It's tragic that a granddad loses his grandchild at his own hand, but it's sick when a corporation attempts to protect itself in order to place blame on a grandfather for the death of a child. I just think that is so very disturbing. It, it, is this common practice? Is this the good old fashioned American way about how we do things?
Well, I don't think it's the good old fashioned American way, but it definitely seems to be the what's happening these days. I mean, don't get me started on PG&E and what's going on out here in California with the power.
You all
Wow.
have power?
Just wow. No, I do have power, but I have some relatives that don't have power and haven't had power for a few days. And really, I think that this is just all about liability.
Mm-hmm.
That, if PG&E says, well, we cut the power, it's not our fault. So if there's a fire, it's on you. Even though I think that there has been cases where people, or, at least one person has died due to the no power. And I'm going to, say that there's probably been fires just from, people having their fireplaces going, or candles being left open, or not being around when the power comes back on, and having some appliance be on. So yeah, I mean, I think that this is just I mean, it's just ultimately, I think, all about liability.
Wow. I got to ask you, since we talked about PG&E, is this the fault of Gavin Newsom and the climate change legislature as well? Can you put the blame there too?
I want to. Uh, I don't think I can entirely do that. I think that PG&E has had some bad practices. I think that they have not done, their due diligence in terms of maintenance. Um, but it is kind of crazy, or I won't see. It is interesting how, when you look at socialist areas, that the infrastructure is not as good as it could be. That seems to be a coincidence.
just a just a quirk. Stuff
Just a
happens.
quirk. Stuff happens.
No, but I've heard people complain that PG&E is more concerned about presenting brochures that shows the diversity of its workforce than actually dealing with the infrastructure issue. And then PG&E blames Gavin Newsom and the legislature for them not being able to do what's necessary to improve the infrastructure. Uh, it's kind of like pointing the finger one
I
way or the
think
other.
I think that there's probably a lot of blame to go around.
Can
I think that there's probably a lot of, I think there's a lot of blame for PG&E, and I think that there's probably a lot of blame on Gavin Newsom, and I think that there's probably a lot of blame on the Democratic controlled legislature of California.
so, but it's far better to put the blame on grandma living up in the hills of Laguna uh, for putting a candle up since she doesn't have any lights whatsoever. It's grandma's fault. Can we just put it on grandma?
Yes, that seems to be the plan.
Grandma, please put the candle down. Lights are coming on soon. Um, right now, there is supposed to be a ceasefire between the Syrian and Turkish forces. Um, the state media is reporting that that is not the case. It appears that the left wants to make it very plain that Donald John Trump is responsible for whatever happens to the Kurds, no matter what they did. Is this the case regarding the clash between Turkey and Syria?
So, yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ultimately, people have to want peace. People have to want to not fight each other. Okay. If they do, they're going to find a way to fight each other. Okay. That is just how it works.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Um, so there's that. I will say that in a very theoretical sense, okay, because we have a very large military and we theoretically do have the ability to stop the conflict, or at least stop the conflict between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that to some degree it is our responsibility in a little bit. That said, I don't think that us trying to stop them would really, it wouldn't put Syria and Turkey in a better situation, right? Because
Mm.
in order for us to do that, we would have to use the military, and the situation would probably end up maybe being worse than what it is now. So yes, theoretically, yeah, we could stop them, but that it may not act better situation.
It's kind of like that domestic violence situation where the cops got to come out to the house at least 3 or 4 times to get things in right order, because they're going to end up fighting one another no matter what, no matter how many times the police come out. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. Uh, ladies and gentlemen, Janis Hall, the J Hall World Report. I'm telling you, the best thing that happens on this network every Wednesday night. I want to leave off on a happy note, and it's to show the muster of the work that we do in following up on crucial foreign policy issues as we bring the most complex issues down to the kitchen table for people to understand. I want to go back to the story regarding the Thai king who's cleaning up and purging his bedroom guard. I wanted to get your thoughts regarding that because last week we talked about how he threw out the mistress. This week he's purging the guard. Let's get your opinion on that.
Yeah, so this week he's essentially purging his ranks because of adultery. Is being pretty consistent here. Um, I think that there are probably, it is probably not the measurement I would go by. That said,
He's consistent. He is a great ruler, clearing out the mistress chambers and clearing out the armed God protecting. He is such a moral high standard. That's the type of leadership we need around the world. Are we in consensus on this?
not quite.
We're all going to Thailand.
No, I think it's ultimately a play. He's trying to assert, I think, control. And if he can, say, well, I'm not going to put up with this, I'm not going to put up with that, and get rid of people, I think he essentially trying to instill some fear in his entourage.
It's a strong king. Love this guy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's almost 11 o'clock. We've come towards that ending time that we know that we have come to the end of our program, and Brexit is still not done. We want to thank you all so much for tuning in from around the world. I want you all to remember that God bless America. It is now time for America to bless God. Good night. God bless you all. Mary Brockman, smooches to you. Love you all. We will see you tomorrow night with Michael Brown and also Alexa Dunnett. Good night. God bless you all. Thanks, Janis. You're awesome.